Okay, let's look at some pictures of the circulatory system just really quick. So you can see that they usually show diagrams with both red and blue. So red is supposed to be represent like arteries that are carrying oxygenated blood away from the lungs and heart to the major organs in the body and to all other cells in the body. And the blue ones are supposed to represent like pulmonary veins, and those are carrying deoxygenated blood, which means carbon dioxide, it's not oxygen, back to the heart and lungs so that your lungs can expel it. Um, and so a lot of the pictures you're going to see are going to have both the blue and red. So again, red is carrying it away, blue is carrying it back too, because it's carbon dioxide or waste. Now, a common misconception that it's been a myth for a really long time is that some people thought that the blood in your veins was actually the color blue. So they thought when the oxygen was taken out and given to your cells and carbon dioxide was put in and it was therefore deoxygenated, that the color of the blood turned blue. And the reason you never bleed blue blood is because if you were to cut yourself on a vein, oxygen would leak in, it would turn the blood red because it was oxygenated, and then you would bleed red. And so you would never be able to see the blue blood. So maybe if an astronaut went into outer space where there's not oxygen and cut himself, would he bleed blue blood? All right. So what they found is that actually it's the way that the light is penetrating your skin. Okay. And the wavelengths that are entering your skin to see these blue veins, like in your wrist, the way it's reflecting back to you, you're only seeing the blue wavelengths because they're not as efficient at penetrating the skin, which is kind of interesting. So the reason it's the color blue is because of the way the light's hitting it. Your blood is actually still red in those veins, even though you see blue. So that's kind of been a common myth. I'm pretty sure I was even taught that when I was in school, like in fourth grade, I was taught that your blood was blue in your veins. So I don't know how long it's been since they've debunked that myth. But so a lot of times you hear people having heart attacks. Well, what will happen is the arteries will actually get blocked in the heart. And then it's going to starve your heart of oxygen and nutrients. And so then your heart actually has an attack because it's not able to make the ATP that it needs. And so that's what a heart attack is it's not getting, the heart isn't getting the oxygen it needs. Now, if you have a heart attack and your heart quits working, then eventually it's going to affect your brain and all your other organs because they're not getting the oxygen and glucose that they need. So that's kind of important. All right, here's another picture with all the blue and red, and you can see it just runs. Now, capillaries are the really, really tiny ones. Like if you've ever kind of scraped your skin and you've seen like little bitty blood droplets, those are capillaries. Blood pressure has to do with how your blood is pumping through your blood vessels. So, all right, let's look at some pictures of what your actual blood cells look like. Now, red blood cells are going to look different than other blood cells. Red blood cells are kind of this disc shaped and they've kind of got like a divot in them. Now, mature red blood cells are the only cells in your body that don't have a nucleus, which I know sounds crazy because we taught you that all eukaryotes have a nucleus. But because of their shape, they need more room to actually carry as much oxygen as possible. And so they actually, mature red blood cells actually lack a nucleus, which is really, really interesting. Most of your blood, which by the way is a tissue because it's made up of cells, even though you wouldn't think liquid could be a tissue, it is a tissue because it's made up of red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. But most of it is fluid. It's actually water, most of your blood, and that's why it's very fluidy. So here's some pictures of the three types of cells. So you have this one right here, which is the red blood cell, and you can see the little divot in it. Again, that gives it more surface area to carry oxygen. And then this little fuzzy looking guy that looks like one of those crazy looking balls you can buy at Walmart, he is a white blood cell. And you have several different white blood cells, T cells, B cells. We're going to talk about those in a little bit. And then this guy down here is a platelet. And so those actually help you clog when you bleed, platelets are what help you scab up. Okay. Okay, so there you go. All right, and so that's your blood cell. All right, we're gonna go to nervous system. Nervous system is actually my favorite system. My kids wouldn't be surprised by that at all, that Miss Elise is dorky enough to have a favorite body system. Definitely favorite body system is nervous system. I am not saying that it's the most important, because that's to each of your own opinions, but it is my favorite. So we're going to talk a little bit about the nervous system. All right, so nervous system is, pretty simple. It's going to be your brain, of course, your nerves, which nervous system, nerves. Those are actually made up of cells called neurons, and we're going to look at a picture of those in just a second. And then your spinal cord, which is in your backbone, and it's going to run all the way down your back. So your spinal cord is inside the bones that are protecting that major organ, because the spinal cord is as important as the brain, okay? And so what does the nervous system do? Well, pretty easy. It's controlling everything in your body. So it's going to control all your senses. So sense of smell, how you feel, all your senses like hearing, okay? And it pretty much directs sorry about that. It's going to direct other systems in your body. So it tells the other systems what to do. We're going to talk about that when we get to the endocrine system. Endocrine probably is the hardest and most complex, but it is controlled by the nervous system. We'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, so let's look at some pictures of the nervous system, and we're going to talk about why it's my favorite. Okay, all right, so the nervous system's main job is to help you maintain homeostasis. We learned about an organelle that helped us maintain homeostasis. Which organelle in the cell helps you maintain homeostasis? Is it the nucleus, the ribosomes, the Golgi, or the plasma membrane? You got it right. It's the plasma membrane. I just felt like Blue's Clues. All right, or Mickey. All right, so it is the plasma membrane. Plasma membrane controls what goes in and out, helps the cell balance. So your nervous system is actually going to do the same thing. It's going to help your body balance stuff. So if you eat too much sugar, the nervous system is going to help you balance that so that your body can break down that sugar and get back to the normal state, okay? If you walk outside and the light's too bright, your nervous system is going to help you balance that. It's going to dilate your pupils, make them smaller, and so then that way not as much light is coming in. So that is what your nervous system does. Now, here's the cool thing about the nervous system. All right, so let's pretend just for a second that you walk into the kitchen, you didn't know mom just cooked on the stove, and you lay your hand on the hot part of the stove. It's not red anymore because it's not on, but she just turned it off, so it's hot, okay? All right, so let's talk about what's happening. In your hand, you have nerve endings, okay, so nerves, and they are, let's look at what they look like. They look really weird, but this is a nerve cell, okay? Looks way different than any cell we've seen before, but remember, all cells look different because structure equals function. All right, so what it does is controlled by what it looks like. All right, so all of these little neurons are in your hand. So you touch something hot, and they all connect. So they're going to connect. So there would be like another neuron connected here. So this axon, the little end, there would be another one connected to the dendrites. And they don't really like hit. They kind of just barely like don't touch. And then electrical, like electricity, fires between them. So it just kind of goes from the axon, fires up the dendrite, then it hits another one. And so that's kind of shooting all the way up your arm, these electrical impulses. Okay, so your hand's on the hot, we're shooting up the arm. Hot, 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 hot. Okay, then it's going to come back here to your spinal cord. Now, your spinal cord is the main highway to your brain. So this is going to then shoot an electrical impulse made up of neurons all the way up to your brain and say, yo, brain, we are touching something hot. What do we do? Okay. And so your brain says, oh my gosh, we need to lift that hand off of the hot stove. Okay. So it's going to send another electrical impulse back down to your spinal cord saying, lift the hand back down all the way to this muscle right here. And so when it goes to this muscle, then the muscle is going to say contract. And when you say contract, you lift your hand. Now, think about it. If you laid your hand on something hot, are you going to sit there and wait for 20 minutes before your brain says lift? No, because it works that fast. That is why the nervous system is so cool to me. All right, so the nervous system is that fast. You lay your hand on something hot and you go like this. So you have to think about how fast that is shooting up and down to your brain. I mean, isn't that really cool how fast those electrical impulses shoot? Because that's a fast thing. Oh, hot. And that's happening that quick. So that's kind of why the nervous system is my favorite. So again, made up of these weird looking cells. I mean, those are a lot different than any other cell we've seen. Structure equals function. Okay. So every cell in your body is shaped different because they all do something different. If they were all shaped the same, then they would all do the same thing and your body would definitely not be as efficient and probably not work. Okay. So it's got a lot of different parts. You don't really have to memorize them, but there's the nucleus because every cell in your body has a nucleus except for the mature red blood cell. And then the myelin sheath is actually kind of like insulation, almost like a wire. Very good. So there's a picture of your brain. Your brain has all these wrinkles in it. Okay. It's very, very wrinkled. If we were to take an air pump and blow your brain up and make it really, 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 your brain would be huge and then your head would have to be real big too, okay? So to save surface area, it's very wrinkled. So it's kind of like this paper is taking up a whole bunch of space. If I crumble it up, it doesn't take up that much space. However, it still has the same amount of surface area. The same amount of writing is on this paper as on this paper, okay? And so that is why your brain is wrinkled, because we still get the same amount of surface area on this paper, the same amount of writing, same amount of space to write everything, but we can make it more compact so that your head doesn't have to be this big. So that's why your brain is so interesting. Now, all right, so again, your brain is huge on memory, and there's different parts of your brain. And one part of your brain controls speech, and one part of your brain controls memory. There's a part of your brain that controls sense of smell. And so if you damage those, then that would affect whatever that part of the brain controls. And they've done studies on that, kind of like Hannibal Lecter, where they kind of they've sawed the skull open, and then they like touch one part, and maybe the person starts, their speech starts to and they start to talk slurish. They touch another part, and the person can't control themselves because that part controls. So they've done studies on that, which is kind of cool too. The other thing is your spinal cord is really neat. I don't have a picture of it, but it is your main highway. So if something happens to your spinal cord, like maybe, I don't know, I'm playing football and I get hit and my spinal cord, I break my backbone, but then I also injure my spinal cord. Well, now the brain will try to send messages down to the rest of the body, but that electrical connection is now broken. So if the brain's trying to send messages like move your foot, move your foot, move your foot, it can't get down to your muscle to move your foot. And so then you would be paralyzed. So that spinal cord is also very important, because if you hurt the spinal cord here at your neck, then you would be paralyzed from that point down. If you felt somebody poked you in your leg, it's going to try to send that message up to your brain, but you're never going to actually feel it because it never gets to your brain, even though you see it. Okay. If I get injured here on my back, then I'm just going to be paralyzed from that point down. So I'd be able to feel my arms, but I can't feel from that point down my legs or maybe my belly button. Okay. So nervous system is very cool. And I'm sure I just bored you, but it's really neat. All right. So here's some pictures of some neurons that are kind of connected. And you can see they kind of look like hairs or roots of a plant. But those dendrites and axons just have all those pieces, and then again, the electrical impulses shoot out. And so that's the nervous system, my favorite. Okay, all right, let's go to digestive system. So the digestive system, I think, is probably, again, I think these first five, most of you probably already know, but digestive system's job is to digest. And so when you take in food or liquid into your body, the digestive system's job is to digest. Waving at my husband out in the backyard. He's looking at me. So, and so you've got all the parts where you take the food in, so your mouth all the way down your esophagus. Now, you've got two tubes in your throat. You've got your trachea, which is this front one, and then your trachea is what you breathe in, and it's your voice box. And then you've got your esophagus, which kind of runs behind the trachea. It's really, 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 really long, behind the lungs and heart. And then it goes to, behind the liver to your stomach, okay? And your stomach is usually the size of a fist. Then you have your small intestines, which they're long, but they're called small because they're more narrow in size. Your large intestines are a little bit thicker in size, but shorter, okay? So your small intestines actually absorb the nutrients, and then your large intestines are just there for storage until you go to the bathroom and get rid of the waste that we just pulled all the nutrients out of. So yes, very, very yummy. All right, so again, let's look at that other PowerPoint. Goodness. Okay, so the digestive system is going to include your mouth, your esophagus. Use this. Okay, but so there's your mouth, esophagus, stomach, liver, your pancreas, and intestines. Now, each of these have different jobs. Your mouth obviously is going to be like pre-digestion. It helps you break stuff down with your teeth, and there's enzymes in your mouth. Salivary amylase that also helps break it down before it even goes into your esophagus. Esophagus is kind of one of those smooth muscles, so it kind of squeezes your food all the way down till it gets to your stomach, and then your stomach has tons of enzymes and acid that's going to break down the food even further. And then it's going to go into small intestines and large intestines, and the liver and pancreas both have jobs as well in the digestive system. And we'll talk about the pancreas a little bit more when we get to the endocrine system, because a lot of these systems, as you see in the activity that you're going to be doing, the scenario activity, you have to have the systems working together. So kind of like your skeletal and your muscular work together to help you move, your pancreas is part of the endocrine system as well as the digestive system to help you break down glucose. Very, very important, though, that we break down food, because this is where you're going to get your glucose for your blood to carry to your organs so that they can put it in the mitochondria with oxygen and make ATP. And if they don't make ATP, that energy that they need, then they die. So very important. All right, so let's look at some pictures. This is the cells in your small intestines, and they have villi, which are these kind of like little bitty hairs that are on the small intestine walls. And so the food is actually here, and it's going to get absorbed through the small intestines into your bloodstream. And so that way your blood can pick up the glucose, and that happens in the small intestines, that villi. So that is your digestive system. All right, so integumentary system. All right, integumentary system. You might practice saying that. I know my kids, they're used to me making them say it, integumentary. It's a hard one. All right, so if you didn't already know this, the biggest organ in your body is your skin, okay? It is the largest organ of your body, okay? Completely covers your body. So how I remember this is integumentary. It's a very big word, integumentary. And so it's going to be the largest organ, which is your skin. That one's kind of hard to remember. So this is going to include your skin and all the parts of your skin, which is going to be your hair and nails, which is also made up of kind of hair, and those kinds of proteins, that keratin, that your protein synthesis. And you can see like how complex the layers of the skin are. And this is kind of like when you hear about Oh, it's a second-degree burn. It's a third-degree burn. It's basically talking what layer of the skin did they get to? And the higher the number, the more layers they burned off. So if it's a first-degree burn, you probably just burned, that outer layer of your skin, your epidermis, that outer layer. And then a second degree burn, you're getting deeper into the tissues. So now you're burning not only the epidermis, which is the top layer, but you're burning like lower layers, okay? Third degree burn, and the biggest one's a fourth degree burn, and those are super serious because you literally have no skin left. Okay, so the thing about the skin is, okay, why is it, I mean, besides making us look pretty, I mean, if you didn't have skin, you just see all the muscles. Why is it so important to have skin? Well, skin does a bunch of different stuff. But the most important thing is it's like your primary defense against diseases. So it works very closely with the immune system because if you ripped all your skin off and your body is just constantly being exposed to all the pathogens, bacteria and viruses in the air, you would get sick, you would get infections, and that's what happens to people with fourth degree burns. If somebody's in a fire and they get a fourth degree burn all over their body, there's a good chance they're not going to make it. They don't have a high chance of survival. And the reason is because we can't really do a skin graft and pull skin from somewhere else because you burn most of it off. And now your body is just being exposed. They'll put you in a very sterile room at the hospital, and people that go in there have to be completely like put in suits and sterilized because your chance of infection is so high because your skin is so important. Your skin is super duper important and protects you against anything foreign to your body. So skin is important. Now, if you get a fourth degree burn just on your arm, they can actually take skin from other places, like most commonly the best places on your buttocks, okay? And they will take a layer of skin and do what's called a skin graft and put that skin here. Now, I can take my own skin because my body's not going to reject it because it's my own skin cells. So that's kind of what a skin graft is, but your skin is really important and you really do need it. So it does protect your internal body from diseases and infections. And then the other thing it does is it actually is not only going to protect, but we use it for sweating. So obviously you have your glands that allow us to sweat, and there's lots of different types of glands in your skin, but the one I'm talking about is just the sweat gland. And so it helps you produce sweat. We're going to talk about that again later because it goes with another body system. But I just wanted to show you a picture of the skin cells. And the skin cells look, again, different than every other cell. So remember the neurons kind of looked like tree roots. These almost just look little bitty dots. So these are epidermal cells, and you can see how many of them are there, okay? And again, structure equals function. So the structure of the skin cells is going to be different than any other cell because its function is different than other cells in your body. So that is an epidermal cell. Very good. All right. Let's move on to reproductive. Now, reproductive is obviously the hardest one to teach to ninth graders, but is also their favorite because they always like to ask me questions. And I encourage you to ask me questions, send me emails, shoot me a remind if you have any questions about any of these body systems. But if you're just curious about one, you should know about your body. And so I'm willing to answer all of them, but you probably already know what the reproductive system is, and you know most parts of the reproductive system. It's the less likely one to be tested on, like the STAR test, because they don't want y'all giggling during the test, okay? But your major parts are going to be your testes, which obviously would be part of your testicles, your penis. This is always very hard to say in ninth grade class. Your prostate gland, which is going to be part of the endocrine, your ovaries in a female, your uterus in a female, vagina in a female, and breasts in a female. So the first 3 are part of males, and the last 4 are female organs. And obviously, the reproductive system's responsibility is to reproduce, to make babies, okay? To produce offspring, okay? And so that would be the important part, or reproduction of the reproductive. Now, I kind of have a couple pictures. Now, I didn't obviously, I put 2 bunnies high-fiving because I thought that would be more appropriate. But reproductive system is going to have to do with those gametes. And we've talked about those gametes before. Gametes are your sex cells. It's the game only adults get to play. And it's going to be sperm and eggs. And they go through meiosis, so they have half the chromosomes. And when they combine, for humans, you get total 46 chromosomes. We've talked about that before. All right, so you're going to have testes, penis. Now, your testes is actually what produces your sperm, and the hormone, which is going to be part of endocrine, testosterone, which makes you have a deeper voice and grow hair on your chest. Okay, and so that's going to be testosterone. Females, their reproductive system is a little bit more complex because obviously they carry the offspring for 9 months. So theirs is a lot more complex. But you have your vagina and your fallopian tubes, and then you're going to have your ovaries. And you have 2 ovaries, one on each side, and that is where your eggs are held, okay? And then once a month, your ovaries will produce an egg, okay? Now, in most cases, maybe the right ovary on the right-hand side is going to drop an egg, okay? And it sits there for maybe 2 or 3 days, and it waits to be fertilized. So it's waiting for a sperm to make the long trek up the vagina to the fallopian tubes to hit that egg, okay? Now, there's a chance that it doesn't happen, that the sperm never makes it. Now, if the sperm doesn't make it, it's not fertilized, then your body says, okay, we're done with that egg, we're going to get rid of it, okay? And this is going to be where you have your menstrual cycle. And so a female would have a menstrual cycle, which means your body just prepared to have a baby. So it prepared the uterus, the uterine wall, it got it nice and cozy for a baby to live there, and the egg didn't get fertilized. So now your body says, okay, we're going to get rid of all this. So it's going to shed the egg and all the uterine wall lining. And so that's going to be the menstrual cycle that the female has once a month. And as next month, the other ovary is going to drop an egg and it's going to wait. And if it doesn't get shed, you have your menstrual cycle again. And so it's just going to keep happening month after month after month, unless you're doing something different to your body. If you're under stress, you may not drop an egg because your body doesn't think it can handle it. If you're taking birth control, obviously that can affect if you're dropping eggs, because that's kind of its job. So menstrual cycles may not be every month. So it just kind of depends. Now, normally it should happen that way. Sometimes females can drop 2 eggs at the same time. And if they both get fertilized, then obviously you would have twins, and those would be fraternal twins. And so it just kind of depends. If it gets fertilized, then the baby's going to start to grow and plant itself in that uterine wall and keep and keep growing. And so it's a very complex system to produce offspring. But that's kind of the basics of it. Again, here are some cells. The sperm cell is the smallest human cell. And the egg is the largest human cell. So it's kind of crazy that those two end up ironically going together. So again, the sperm is really tiny and the egg is very large. So there's kind of a representation of that. Sperm, remember, they have the flagella to help them move. All right, okay, go into the excretory system. Excretory means excrete. Excretory means exit, okay? So your excretory system is going to be anything that you get rid of out of your body. So this kind of gets complex and it overlaps with some of those other systems. So the first one's going to be your kidneys, and your kidneys filter, the baby's crying. Let me get back to y'all in a second. Okay, I'm back. Sit Maddie in there to watch the baby so I can finish this. All right, so kidneys, which is what's going to filter the water, liver, Lungs. Okay, so how is the lungs part of the excretory system? Well, the lungs part, because what are you excreting out of your lungs? Well, you're excreting, what's exiting is carbon dioxide. So it is part of the excretory system because you are getting rid of some form of waste, and it's carbon dioxide. That's a waste. Bladder, which is going to store your urine until you go to the restroom. Rectum. So the rectum is going to get rid of solid waste, like feces, okay? Caca, I don't know, poop, okay? So that's your rectum. Anus, and then your urethra is actually the tiny opening where urine comes out of, which is going to be in different places depending on your gender. So again, you've got solid waste coming out, you've got liquid waste coming out, you've got gas waste coming out, and another waste that's not on here but is sweat. So when you have sweat out of your skin from those sweat glands, that is another waste that you're getting rid of as well. So anytime you remove waste from your body, that's going to be excretory. So you're removing waste right now. If you're not sweating, that's okay. If you're not going to the bathroom, I hope not. But if you are breathing, you are using your excretory system. So we're using our excretory system all the time because we're breathing out carbon dioxide. So that would be your excretory system. I don't think I have very many pictures of it on my PowerPoint. Remember that these systems do overlap. So excretory is obviously going to go with digestive to get rid of food. Urinary system, which is your urine. Skin from sweating, and respiratory system, which we haven't talked about, but that is breathing. And it's going to filter. So there would be a picture of your kidneys. It's showing your veins and arteries, your circulatory system in that picture, but this is your kidneys. And then these are your ureters, which are the tubes that the urine moves down to get to your bladder. Now, your bladder is what feels full when you're like, really have to go to the bathroom and you're like, oh my gosh, I really, 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 really have to go. It's your bladder that you're feeling that's really, really full. So then you would pee out of your urethra, and that's where the urine would leave. So that to empty your bladder. And there's another picture. We're going to talk about the adrenal glands in a second for endocrine, but they sit on top of your kidneys. And your kidneys are usually found in your back, kind of your lower back. So kidney stones, oof, terrible. But that's kind of when you build up, oh gosh, I'm losing it. But you're building up waste in your kidneys. And then your ureters, and then the bladder and the urethra. So again, it's showing the circulatory system behind it and just how they intertwine. Kidneys. All right, so here's a picture of actual kidney cells, specifically kidney cells. Again, that kind of look kind of like cardiac cells, but if we kind of zoomed in on just one of them, it would probably look different than a cardiac cell because structure equals function. So kidney cell's job is different than a cardiac cell. Very good. All right, so the lymphatic system and the immune system pretty much go together and they intertwine. So I'm not even sure that I really have the lymphatic system on my PowerPoint because it goes with the immune system so much. So the lymphatic system, let's fill them out from this PowerPoint. The lymphatic system is going to include your lymph nodes, okay? And these are found you have clusters of these found throughout your body. You have some lymph nodes that are right here in your neck. And these you've probably felt like if you have a really bad sore throat or strep throat and you go to the doctor and he'll kind of do this to your neck, he's feeling for your lymph nodes. And that's because if you have an infection somewhere in your body like strep throat or earache, then those lymph nodes are going to get swollen because they're producing more liquid, and there's more immune cells like white blood cells. And so, because it's producing white blood cells, to go fight that infection. So these will actually get sore. You have major lymph nodes in your armpits, and you also have them like between your thighs. And so those are your lymph nodes. Oops. And then, well, hello. What are you doing? All right, the thymus, which is kind of like right here in your neck. And then you also have your spleen, which also helps produce white blood cells. So these are going to make white blood cells, which the major ones we talk about are called T cells. And some of my kids should remember that T cells, the letter T, that is actually what HIV attaches to. Those are the specific cells that HIV attack. They are a type of white cell. You also have B cells, but T cells are the ones that HIV likes. And so the fluid between the cells is what the lymphatic system is it's more fluid, okay? Now the immune system, which I'm going to skip down to, just because I'm already talking about it, again, it's going to be made up of white blood cells. So the lymphatic system makes the white blood cells, your lymph nodes. And then the white blood cells flow through your blood, and that is going to be what fights off infection. So any pathogen, anything foreign to your body that could make you sick. Okay, it's also going to be made up of antibodies. Again, lymphatic system goes right with the immune system. So lymph nodes are included in this one because they work together so much, your spleen. And then remember me talking about your bone marrow and how it also produces red blood cells and white cells inside your bones. There's like this kind of mushy area on the inside, and it also produces your white blood cells. So it's part of the immune system too. So circulatory system works with the immune system because it carries it. Your lymphatic system works with the immune system. Let's see. Your skin works with the immune system because it's going to keep those pathogens from entering the body anyway. There's so many systems that work together in the body, and if they stopped working together, then so they're going to protect you from infection or any pathogens. Pathogens are anything that hurts you. It could be protists that hurt you, bacteria that hurt you, viruses that hurt you, just anything that's going to hurt your body is a pathogen. And so that is your immune system. Going back over here to pictures of the immune system. So here's a T cell, and like here's a HIV virus attaching to the T cell, and it's going to so you can see this T cell, actually all the HIV viruses have just lysed the T cell, busted out. You know, that's the last step where they bust out and they kill the T cell. And then they go find themselves new T cells to infect, inject their nucleic acid, DNA or RNA, and then go through the process of making more HIV cells. So that's kind of a picture of that. This is a picture of the pathogens found in your food. Now, you do eat pathogens, foreign stuff, bad stuff, and the digestive system helps your immune system by breaking that up. So all the enzymes in your saliva. T cells, hairy looking, and B cells. So both of them are going to help fight off, but the T cells attack. They're the ones that actually attack. And then B cells, they also help, but they're not as important as the T cells. So very, very, very important. So here's a picture of a white blood cell attacking these little green looking guys. Those would be like bacteria. And so what they do is they usually use phagocytosis or endocytosis, which is where the cell engulfs it. We've already learned that too. It takes a lot of energy. It is an active transport for it to engulf that bacteria cell. So that would be a picture of a cell. Structure equals function. All right, very good. All right, respiratory system. The respiratory system is, let's go back to this one. We're almost done. Respiratory system is going to be breathing. Okay. Now, respiratory is going to be, what do you breathe through? So you breathe through your nose and you breathe through your mouth. And then when you breathe, it's going to go down your trachea, which is that front tube where your voice box is, and it's in front of the esophagus. And then it's going to go into your lungs. Madeline, I asked you to watch her for just a second, honey. All right, sorry about that. That's what happens when you work at home with kids, right? Okay, so respiratory system, breathing through your nose or your mouth, going down your trachea, which is in front of that esophagus where your food's going, and then it's going into your lungs. And so the purpose of it is to breathe in your oxygen and breathe out. Can't spell today, oxygen, and you're going to breathe out carbon dioxide. And so you're kind of what we call gas exchange. You're exchanging those gases in the lungs. Now the lungs have lots of different parts. They've got like lots of little air sacs in them. And they obviously are going to expand when you breathe in, and then they're going to get smaller when you breathe out that carbon dioxide. So we use it for cellular respiration because you need oxygen, and then you make carbon dioxide, water, and energy in cellular respiration, which hopefully you'll remember happens in the mitochondria. Respiratory system and excretory system are going to go close together because you're excreting that carbon dioxide, and then the circulatory system has to pump through there as well to pick up the oxygen. So your blood's going to pump through there to pick up the oxygen. So there's some pictures of the trachea cells, and so the trachea is this tube right here that kind of goes down. Structure equals function, and then again you have upper and lower respiratory parts or tracts. And so you've heard of like an upper respiratory infection or a lower respiratory infection. And so these are those little air sacs I was talking about called alveoli. And so they actually fill up with oxygen. And then here is a picture of what those cells look like. And again, looks kind of like the cardiac cells, but if we zoomed in on them, they would be a lot different. They would look a lot different. Sorry, I've got all my emails popping up on here. All right, so obviously diseases you can get of the respiratory system or the lungs. Asthma, some of you may actually have asthma. And so asthma is usually, it's normal for kids to have. Certain things can set your asthma off, but asthma is just kind of where it constricts your breathing, so it does make it a little bit harder to breathe. Emphysema is usually caused maybe by smoking, but you can tell where your lungs have just gotten black. And vaping can do this to your lungs as well. And so it just kind of turns your lungs black. And I mean, you can obviously see the issues in that happening. So that would be your respiratory system. All right, last one is the hardest one. Okay, endocrine system is the most difficult to understand. It's hard for my AP biology kids. Heck, it's hard for me sometimes. Okay, so how do I get my students to remember endocrine system? I've given you kind of ways to remember. Integumentary is the biggest, so it's going to be the biggest organ in your body, so your skin. Circulatory circles your body. All right, so endocrine. I'm going to tell you a little story for endocrine, and I know this video is really long, so you're probably not even watching this, but so endocrine system, I want you to go back to my childhood. So when I was younger, we let the kids play outside, and my mom would let us roam the whole neighborhood. Well, me and the neighborhood kids decided one day that we were going to play hide and seek in the whole neighborhood. And there were a lot of us playing. So I see the person coming, or somebody says they're coming, and so I decided to jump into this person's backyard. Probably not the smartest moment of my life. So they had the little, railings going up the big wooden fence. So I climbed the railings and I jump over. Well, now I'm on the smooth side of the fence where there's no railings, okay? And this is when we used to have pickets, like at the top of the fence. It actually was kind of sharp like this. Now a lot of the fences are flat, but it was sharp. Okay, so I'm sitting in this backyard thinking, I just found me the best hiding place. Ain't nobody gonna find me in this backyard. All right, I promise there's a point to this. So all of a sudden, this big old Rottweiler comes out from the side of the house and just like kind of looks at me. And I thought, holy cow. All right. So the Rottweiler kind of gives me that look, and then you see his lip go up and he's like, grrr. Okay. Into my life. Life flashes before my eyes. I see, the 7 years of my childhood just flash right before my eyes, and I'm thinking, this thing's about to eat me, okay? My friend's on the other side of the fence about to jump over, and she's like, come on, come on, come on. Okay, it probably didn't happen like this, but I swear this is how I remember it. My endocrine system kicked in because I thought it was the end of my life, okay? And so here's what happened. On top of my kidneys, there are adrenal glands. Now, adrenal glands are going to pump adrenaline. All right, so you've heard of adrenaline before. Adrenaline can kick in for lots of different reasons, but the main reason is fight or flight. Okay, so fight or flight response is the ability for your body to think it's the end of its life, and it's either going to fight for its life or it's going to run for its life. Okay, so I had two options. I either sit there and I use my adrenaline to fight this Rottweiler, probably not going to happen very well because I was very tiny, little 7-8-year-old. Okay, or I could run. Okay, now I'm a little white girl, probably ain't running the fastest, all right? And let's just tell you, I can't jump real high either, okay? But I promise you, my adrenaline kicked in and I Michael Jordaned that fence. Like I tongue out, legs spread, Michael Jordan jumped over that fence. Now, could I do that on a regular day? Probably not. Did it probably happen like that? Okay, I probably didn't like literally clear the fence. I probably climbed it pretty well fast, okay? In my head, Michael Jordan. Tongue out. I mean, jumping from the free throw line over that fence. Okay, so endocrine system is when any gland in your body, like the adrenal gland for me, pumps a hormone in your body like adrenaline. Okay, what adrenaline does is it actually is the one that maybe you felt if you go on a roller coaster, you're not scared. I'm not scared at all, but your palms are real sweaty and your heart kind of starts to pump a little bit. Or maybe when you're watching a scary movie and then your heart, that music and your heart kind of starts to boom, boom, boom. It starts to pump a little bit more. Okay, that's because you're scared. And so your body thinks that you need to go into fight or flight. So it starts to pump adrenaline. Adrenaline is going to do a lot of things, but the main thing is it's going to pump up your heart rate. And the reason it's doing that is if we make your heart pump faster, then we're making the blood circulate faster. Blood's circling your body quicker. And if it's circulating body quicker, it's bringing more oxygen and glucose to the rest of the cells quicker. And if that's happening, then your cells are able to make more ATP, specifically your muscle cells. And if your muscle cells are making more ATP, then you're able to jump higher, run faster, be stronger. Okay, they've actually had stories of moms lifting cars off their children. Like if they get ran over, the mother lifted a car off of their child. Now, I'm not talking like the bodybuilder moms. I'm talking a regular mom's adrenaline kicked in and their muscles were working such a fast pace that they were able to lift a car. Now, the problem with adrenaline is when you come off of it, it's kind of like a drug. And most people feel it when it hits that high, where it almost kind of makes you sick, okay? Because so many things were happening to your body at such quick pace that sometimes coming down off of it can make you sick. But that is an example of endocrine. Now, endocrine can be many different hormones and glands. I mean, you have so many different hormones. Males have prostate gland. You've got testosterone, okay, which is going to be the hormone that makes you a male, okay? And it's produced by the gland testes. Females have estrogen, which makes us a female, okay? And that's going to be secreted by the ovaries. You have progesterone is one of the ones that I've been producing a lot, and that's for pregnancy. So that just lets the rest of my body know. It pumps through my blood and says, we are pregnant. So we need to store extra food. We need to breathe more. we need to make sure that we're storing extra energy. I mean, it just kind of tells the rest of my body what's going on. It prepares my body for this pregnancy. So there's lots of different hormones, but the key here for endocrine is end of life, okay? Hormones and glands. So if you ever see the word hormones or glands, we're talking about the endocrine system. And the reason it's so hard is because it is the most complex. So on this other PowerPoint here, we had endocrine system was going to be your pancreas. All right, the pancreas is a very large gland, and this one is going to produce the hormone insulin, and it breaks down your glucose, okay? Your blood sugar, the sugar in your blood, okay? So this is where diabetes, you have different types of diabetics, but basically their pancreas is not working the way it should. It could be type 1 diabetes or type 2. So you have one type, which is juvenile diabetes, and you're just born that way. Your pancreas just doesn't work as good, and that's just the way you're born, and that sucks because you didn't do anything wrong. That's just what happened, okay? And then you've got the other type, and the other type is you've ate so crappy your whole life. Okay, maybe not your whole life, but recently you've ate so much cake and you ate so much candy and you're obese and you're overweight and you've overworked your pancreas. Your pancreas is just tired. And when it's tired, it can't produce the insulin. And so obesity can lead to diabetes because your pancreas just gets tired, okay? So then you've got your pituitary gland. That one's kind of hard to say. I can't spell it, that's for sure. Pituitary gland. And that one's going to be up here in your brain, okay? Then you've got your thyroid. Thyroid's in your neck. That usually helps control weight. You've got your ovaries, which is the gland that produces estrogen. Testes, which is the gland that's going to produce testosterone. And so many others. I mean, there's pictures over here. Your adrenal gland, your hypothalamus. So there's so many different types of glands. You get your placenta when you're pregnant, progesterone when you're pregnant. So lots and lots of different glands. And again, their job is just to make hormones. And then the hormones is kind of what tells your body. So a lot of those glands in your brain, that's kind of how they communicate, is they'll release a hormone out into your blood, and then your blood's carrying hormones. So it's not only carrying food and oxygen, it's also carrying hormones. So that's the way circulatory system goes with endocrine, okay? So these systems overlap, and then that hormone tells another gland to release stuff. And so it's kind of just like this feedback system. I'm going to release and tell the pancreas to release insulin. All right, the second our blood sugar is regulated, now I need to turn that off. Don't release it anymore. That tells the pancreas, don't release insulin anymore. Our blood sugar is back to normal. It's kind of like an air conditioner and a thermostat. So this is your thermostat, and your thermostat reads that it's too hot in the house. So it sends a message to the pancreas, says turn on. Turn on AC. AC, turn on. So the air conditioner kicks on. It starts releasing cold air. Cold air is insulin. And then the body says, oh, okay. The brain says, the thermostat says, oh, okay, we're back down to 70 where we need to be, where our blood sugar needs to be. So it says, turns off, and then that's going to turn off the pancreas. The pancreas quits releasing insulin. It's a very complex system. It's called a feedback system. It's very complex to understand. You'll learn about it in AP biology. But that's what makes the endocrine system so hard. But again, glands and hormones are going to be the key. All right, so when you do your scenarios worksheet, which some of you may have already done and you may have found it difficult, but think, like if I'm eating a big old burger, what systems are going to be working big time right now? Well, I mean, the big one's digestive, because I'm about to start digesting this ginormous burger. But if I'm thinking even more than that, okay, I've got teeth here. What system do my teeth chew with, okay? What system is that? Well, that should be your skeletal, because these are all, this is left over when I decompose. This is a bone. So maybe I say skeletal is being used, okay? Or you could say muscular, because it's having to squeeze all that food down. So muscular is pushing it down. That would be, and in your intestines, squeezing, that would be muscular system. This is also muscular, having to chew, okay? What other system? Well, if I'm eating a whole bunch, then I'm also eating a bunch of sugar. So then my insulin is going to secrete. All right, so there's lots of systems working together. Now, are you breathing? Yes. Is respiratory working? Yes. Now, would I say it's working harder than digestive at that moment? No, but you're constantly using all of these systems all the time. But in that scenario worksheet that you're doing, you're going to be wanting to look for the ones that are you being using the most at that moment. So use these notes. I really hope this video helped. It was incredibly long, but like I said, normally I would break this up into several days of notes for my students. So if you need to pause throughout, obviously. Okay, well, I hope that you have a wonderful day. And I hope that these notes helped. Send me a message. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. And we will see y'all next time. Bye.